let's turn our attention to Georgia and the Dogs trip to Tennessee. Kirby Smart won 8 in a row against the Vols. Some of them haven't even been that close. Now, they might have been close for a little bit, but the final margins, well, they do suggest an upper hand in this series. Now, locks again coming on Thursday, but boy, this point spread has been dropping, and maybe with good reason. But I went back to get more eyes on the Austin P game. I know this might surprise you. Wasn't on a main screen of mine on Saturday, but given some of your commentary, I wanted to go back. And it's the passing is kind of like the cha-cha slide to the left, slide to the right. Not a lot of vertical, not a lot of downfield.
Little crisscross?
Yeah, maybe a little crisscross, but not beyond 10 yards. I hear you. I see you in terms of maybe having some alarm bells going off. Now, again, maybe because you're playing against Marshall, because you're playing against Austin P, because you do have a few players that are getting a little nicked on that offensive line. I know some bodies have been moving in and out, and we're continuing to monitor the status of some players going into this game. But at the same time, as you mentioned, there's some corners that for Tennessee that are expected to miss this game as well. Zachariah Branch looks like a boatload of fun. Colby Young, you might only throw it 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, but those guys with blockers in front of them can turn it into a 15, 16-yard gain, especially if you're going up against some backup corners. So, but I'll let you get first word here. How are we digging into this big SEC battle?
So we know that internally Georgia felt they massively upgraded their receiver room. They thought they had one of the best ones in the SEC. I don't disagree. I think they took some guys in the portal who are pretty proven weapons. Whether they can use them effectively is, I think, somewhat still TBD. We heard the narrative all offseason that the quarterback drives a truck and fits the locker room better and all that kind of stuff. But he's not better at football than Carson Beck. So, that's all really cool Sunday to Friday. But on Saturdays, so far, he hasn't looked better than Beck, and it really hasn't been all that close, I don't think. I'm not saying he sucks. I don't think he right now is like a top half quarterback in the league. And that's a little weird to have the SEC favorite not have, a guy like that. Offensive line for Georgia is a total mystery to me. I definitely think that there's a narrative out there that kind of Kirby hired a bunch of these, not retreads, but guys who used to be around the program, and he brought them back, and
guys who take a lot of the blame for the inability to break all the way through under the Mark Richt era. A bunch of 10-2 good teams that can't win the big one. That is a frustrated Georgia fan sentiment, undoubtedly.
And I don't think that's necessarily wrong. Georgia's offensive line does not look like a bunch of killers like it used to. But they've also had a good bit of injuries so far this year, much like they did last year. I don't know who's going to run out there for them this week. And that's going to matter. Tennessee's defensive line is still really, really good. And then on the flip side, Aguilar was one of the most whoopsie-daisy guys in the entire country over the last couple of years. And I don't think Syracuse is any good at all. And obviously they played the FCS team last week. So the best thing I can say about him is that he is not taking ridiculous chances, and he is hitting the open guys. Not a lot of pressure around him so far. So what we don't know was all that bad App State stuff, all the stuff that made him go to UCLA, right? Not a better school until Tennessee was in desperation mode. Is that gone, or can Kirby Smart bring that back out of him? Because defensively, I think Georgia's really damn good, man. And I'm curious to see how Aguilar looks with pressure around him and with guys not running wide open.
Yeah, there's a lot of spiking the football on Joey Aguilar versus Nico so far.
Oh, man.
And
yeah,
I get it because of the circumstances of the breakup, and Aguilar has looked good. But yeah, I would wait until we play a real team before I just start proclaiming that we won that battle, because I saw the stat floated on Twitter yesterday about how Aguilar is getting the ball out in 2.57 seconds, whereas Nico was at 2.99. And it's like they're saying that it's like Joey's seeing it, whereas Nico just couldn't. What that stat ignores is that the average air yards per throw last year with Nico were 10.7 compared to 8.8 with Aguilar. They're throwing shorter passes. If you look at the heat map from last year with Nico, it's a lot more vertical shots. You look at it with Aguilar, there's a lot more side to side with some vertical shots mixed in. So it's the way that they're playing. It's not just Aguilar's just a much better player. So we will see against this Georgia defense. This will be far and away the toughest test that this offense has had to face. And defensively, we talked about they're going to be without their corners. They might be without a couple defensive tackles in this game too. There's a couple guys listed as questionable in the injury report. I think they're expected to play, but we don't know for sure. That could have a factor. As for the Georgia offense, Chip, you mentioned it. I've got some stats to back you up. The cha-cha slide offense. I just mentioned air yards for Tennessee. Gunner is averaging 4.6 air yards per attempt. Now, for context, that ranks 126th out of 130 qualified quarterbacks. This is side to side to side. But we have seen this from Georgia before. We have seen when they play Austin Peay and they play Marshall, they aren't really doing anything. They're just like, we're here. We're contractually obligated to play this game. We have to play a minimum of 12 games. We can only play 8 conference games. So we're going to do this. We're going to get on with the rest of our lives when it's done. Will the game plan change? I'm not predicting it because, like you guys, I have some questions about Gunnar Stockton and his ability. But I also think that what Stockton brings that Carson Beck did not is a mobility. Whereas when Georgia ran RPO with Carson Beck wasn't keeping that ball or going anywhere. Gunnar might. Gunnar has shown already through 2 games he will keep it, he will take off, and he will run. He's not the most explosive runner, but he can get you 5-6 yards.
He's a hard runner. That boy runs hard.
He can keep you on schedule. He can get your success rate going, put you in 2nd and 4, put you in 3rd and 3. So I think we'll probably see a lot of that, but I also think we're going to see Georgia lean more on the run game, especially if those defensive tackles are out or they appear to be less than 100% and Georgia's offensive line is able to wear on them, because you're not going to want to put too much onus on Gunnar on the road in this spot just because the corners are hurt. So we'll see. And then I also think, like you said, Bud, I think Georgia's defense is still very good. I know they haven't played anybody, but just watching them, it's like, all right, yeah, they're going at seemingly 60% and they are completely smothering everybody that's on the field with them right now. So we'll see. This is going to be a very important game, I think, for both these teams. It's a conference game. It's 2 playoff contenders. So we're going to find out a whole hell of a lot about both of these teams on Saturday.
I think Georgia's ability to play man is something that nobody that Tennessee has played so far can show. Especially like their backers can really run. They close space. They cause problems. One thing to watch here is that Tennessee seems to be running a different offense this year, a little bit. Last year, they started incorporating more tight ends. You first saw it against NC State. They did it a little bit more throughout the season. This year, they are more varied in terms of their receiver splits. It used to be just the spitting on the sidelines type stuff, as they would teach it, to really maximize your width. And they still do that some. But they have taken and they're showing a lot more different stuff. Maybe that's to make Georgia, prep a little bit more, but they seem to have changed things up here, and I'm curious to see, like, does Georgia's dominance over this offense under Josh Heupel, because they have whipped them like every year they've played. Does that continue if Tennessee isn't running basically the same offense?
I'd like your input here because you just said something about their linebackers, and this is a thought I feel like I've been kind of ruminating on. Is this Georgia's best linebacking unit since like 21 when they had Dean, Walker, and Tyndall?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because
they just look so much faster than they have the last.
I mean, it's only been 4 years, but like,
but the last few years they just haven't looked at that position the same as they had in previous seasons, and I just feel like they're getting back to that.
Like CJ Allen's a freak. Obviously, they have Raylan, who's really good. They have a bunch of guys in this defense who can really run.
You're playing on the road. The last thing you want to do is give the home team a chance. You want Nate Frazier to hold on to that daggum football.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's I'm not trying to speak anything. Not trying to speak anything negative into existence for our dogs out there, but yeah, that was a little bit of a thing last year, right? And then carried
he
in.
was the most talented back. Clearly, he just couldn't keep the ball in his hands.
Yeah. So that it's a deep running back room. They do run like 3, 4, 5 deep, but Nate should be running first. And I feel like he gets pulled and has to spend some time on the sidelines because he can't hold on to that football. That was something else that happened in that I think it was the first possession, like very, very first possession of Austin Peay game. So yeah, they had 2 lost fumbles against the Governors. 2 lost fumbles going to be no bueno if you're doing it against Tennessee in a big game like this. Anything else before we hit a break and keep it rolling with our attention elsewhere?
Very big test for the Tennessee offensive line.
Yes.
They're not everything, but if you just go, they can provide. If you go look at the PFF grades of Tennessee's offense, you got to go down the list quite a bit before you find an offensive lineman.